Yo, what's good, everybody? In today's video, I have a very special treat for you guys. I want to talk to you guys about this little construction here that I have, which probably a lot of you may know, may not know, which is technically it looks like a graphics card or a server thing, but that's what it is. It used to be, I think it released in 2021 from AMD, and it's like a cut down version of the PS5 graphics card, and it's running, I think it's Zen 4 cores, which is it has a 6-core Zen 4, I think, architecture. And I think it's called AMD BC250. It used to be a mining server, car slash whatever thing, computer, I don't know. It used to be for mining. And like I said, it released in 2021. And this little thing right here that it looks like a graphics card, but it's also a server and it's also a computer. It has been getting a lot of traction lately. Why? Because like a lot of you know, the RAM prices and the Ramageddon and whatever it is for the SSD chips and stuff, it's through the roof. So people are trying to get their hands on anything that they can use to make a computer. I know that because when I think about a month and a half ago or 2 months, these were like dirt cheap. You could get these for like $50 at most, like 70, and it was a great deal for that because you could get the whole rack, which I think you could get either 8 or 12 of those in the whole rack, and you could get it for like $200-300 or something like that. But now if you look for them on eBay used because they're like 4 years old, well, 5 at this point, but you could get them that look like brand new, like this one that I have here, but you could get them because people are now doing like, oh, the Steam machine or whatever. So what they're doing is updating their BIOS and selling them like if it was a computer. They give you like the computer itself, which is this. You could tell it's a hunk of aluminum on the back and on the front. You have a CMOS battery, you have fan connectors, you have this construction right here, which I don't know what these are for, but this is for an 8-pin GPU connector, and here you have an SSD that you could connect. The only bad thing about the SSD is 2 lanes of PCIe 2, which is pretty slow, but I mean, what can you do? And also it runs, I think it has a 6-core Zen 4 architecture, I'm pretty sure. If not, I'll put the specs on the screen right now for you. It has, I think it's 24 CUs of compute units for the graphics card, which is a cut down version, like I said, of the PS5. And it has 16 gigs of memory, which if you update the BIOS, you could do 512 megabytes. And what it'll do, it'll dynamically allocate memory as needed to the GPU, because if not, what it does is I think it caps at 2 gigabytes if you don't upgrade the BIOS on it. But why am I bringing you this topic today? Because it has seen a resurgence. Like I said, like a month and a half or 2 ago, you could get them for like $50-$60, 70 tops. But right now, they're going from like almost $400. Because what people did was YouTubers started buying them, making Steam machines or console for the living room or whatever. And now people are starting doing the same. A lot of people started doing the same thing, buying them and then just preparing them or whatever, and just selling it to people. Now, why am I bringing you this topic today? Because I wanted to bring you the preface of is it worth it to actually buy one of these in 2026? Like a lot of things in life, you know, it's gonna depend on if you're patient enough to get a good deal on one of these. I got this one, I think it was 2-3 days ago for like $140 from like it was $50 like 2 months ago. So the price has significantly skyrocketed, but I'm not gonna bore you with specs or gameplay or performance and stuff like that. I'm just gonna go straight to the point. Is this worth it for you or for someone that you know, or for maybe a business that you want to start in 2026? Like I said previously, you know that right now we're in peak Ramageddon. So everything from DDR3, believe it or not, to DDR5 has skyrocketed. Like like 2 months ago, or maybe 2.5 months ago, you could get a 32 gigs DDR5 for like maybe $120, $130. And right now the same kit costs like $500. So you can see the disappointment in the community right now, especially for SSDs, which you could have gotten 1 terabyte for like $60 like 2 months ago, stuff like that. And right now, if you don't pay close to $200 for 1 terabyte, you might not get it. So again, what's the whole point of this video? Is, like I said, the preface of, is it worth it to buy one of these in 2025? I have 2 points of it. 2 points to make. One is whether you already have a computer, like I do, perfectly capable computer, that you want to upgrade, but you're not in the need right now because it plays everything that you play at perfectly good settings, frame rate, and even resolution. Another thing is whether you want to get into like console gaming or stuff like that, and you don't want to spend the $500 to $600 that you got to spend right now for a PS4, well, PS5 and Xbox Series X or Series S. I think those goes for like $300-400. Another thing is whether you don't have a computer and you want to get into this hobby, but right now is the worst period in time, I think, since COVID and Bitcoin, that's not possible right now, because before it was graphics cards. Right now it's RAM and SSD. So is it worth it? Well, if you already have laying around an NVMe that you're not using, and you have it there because you bought it because you could, because it was cheap or whatever, and you want to get into PC gaming, but you don't want to spend an arm and a leg, because before you could buy pretty capable 1440p rig for like $700 to $1,000, but right now if you don't spend like $1,500 to like $2,000 for a 1440p in 2026, you're not getting into 1440p. And then for 1080p, you could have gotten away with what? Probably $400-500 max. Right now, if you don't spend $800 to $1,000, you're not getting into PC gaming. So this little construction here, it's a pretty good example of resourcefulness of the community, where you can find these types of computers, so to say, and converting them into gaming, which is like having AMD, let's say a 5600G, but more powerful. The only downside of this build, if you can call it that I see, is that you gotta share RAM between the CPU and the GPU. And unless you don't do like a couple of mods, like removing this whole slew of fins, I guess, or whatever, and fan on it to keep it cool, you have to get one of those like fans, I don't know, they're usually for like bulky laptops and stuff like that, which are like this thick. I don't know what they're called. And just pushing air through it might not be as efficient, and it could get like pretty loud and pretty hot still. And if you're not into tinkering, like updating the BIOS and getting a power supply because you don't have one, the main thing for this is that you could get a cheap power supply. I think the Pivia one, the Flex one, it's like 500 watts, you could get for like $30-35. And if you have an SSD laying around, and if you can get your hands on a decently cheap one of these for like maybe 120 to like 140 max, it's a pretty capable machine. You could get a lot done. You could use it as your main computer if you run BASI on it. The only bad thing is, and downside of this computer, is that there's no Windows drivers for it. So you gotta run Linux. So if you're not into running Linux, or you haven't tested or never got your hands on a Steam Deck and know what it feels like to play like computer console things, then it might not be for you. But like I said, if you can get your hands on from like 120 at the lowest to like 140 max, and you already have a spare drive that you could use with this, maybe 256 or 500, it's a pretty good computer. For like, let's say you already have the drive and you get this for like 140, like I got this one, and you spend another $35 on a power supply, and maybe you have a fan around or whatever, you could repurpose it from your another bill or from another computer, whatever, and you mod the fins on it. You could get a pretty good computer for not a lot of money, for like what, $200? But if you're in the market for a really good computer that you might not need to upgrade for the next 2, 3, maybe 4 years, so this might not be for you. I mean, it might get the job done. You can get into gaming, into computer gaming for cheap, if you can get it for cheap. But other than that, it might not be worth it. Like I said, if you need to buy the SSD plus a fan, which is not much money, but I gotta factor in it. So if you gotta buy the SSD, a fan, and a power supply, and also this for like a lot of money, then it might not be worth it. Like, unless you could get them from, like I said, 120 to like 140, if you wait enough and if you're patient enough, then it might be worth it. if you have an SSD laying around. If not, it might be a hard sell. Why? Because like I said, SSDs right now are pretty expensive. Unless you could get your hands, which I don't recommend, on a used SSD for like not a lot of money, and you could buy the power supply new, like I said, 35 bucks, 40 bucks. I think it's like 30, but it has to be a good power supply because this runs like 200, 250 watts of the wall with the power supply. So I recommend between 350 and like 500 just to have the upgradability, so to speak, or the overhead for it. But if you see them from like $200, $300, $250, it's not worth it at all. Especially if you have to factor in, like I said, power supply, the SSD, it might not be worth it for you. But if you already have a couple of parts laying around, like a power supply that you had from a previous bill, or an SSD that you have from that you bought because it was before the Ramageddon or whatever, and you have it laying around, and you find someone that can sell you one of these for cheap on eBay or somewhere else, on Hardware Swap or whatever, on Reddit, then it's a pretty good computer to start your PC gaming journey. Other than that, I don't see much point in buying one of these for like 200, 300 bucks, unless you could get them for that price, including the fan, the power supply, and an SSD. Other than that, I don't see the point on it. Then just snag it, try to see if you can get a pretty cheap SSD. It doesn't have to be like Gen 4 or whatever, but a Gen 3 that you could get for cheap or whatever, even used, if you don't mind, whatever. It's a pretty good, it makes for a pretty good computer. You can run 1440p on a lot of titles. You gotta tempt your expectations because it might not run like the latest and greatest at 1440p max settings, but with a little bit of grease and tweaking, you could get pretty good gaming experience on this little construction right here, which, like I said, I didn't show you the ports, but it has 2 USB 2.0 and HDMI, 2 USB 3.0s, and then an Ethernet. Overclock these and get more performance out of it. But like I said, if you find them cheap from 140 and under, then yeah, it's a pretty good computer to get into computer gaming at that point. Other than that, if you see them 200, 250, 300 bucks, no, it's not worth it. It's a hard pass, especially for the prices that people are selling them for. Or if you can find someone that has a whole bunch of them, you can get a couple of them for cheap. You can get a living room computer and a pretty decent gaming computer. Other than that, guys, that's gonna be it for this week's video. I hope you enjoy. I hope you like it. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts on this, what your thoughts on the whole community as a whole with the Ramageddon and the SSD prices skyrocketing. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.